Have you ever wondered why some grasses love to grow in spring? It just barely warms up at all and they are growing. Others love the heat of summer. What is it that makes these grasses so different? They're both grasses. What is it that's making them different? Well, it's deep inside the engine of the plant, deep inside the workings of the plant that this difference actually happens. We call it C3 versus C4, or cool season versus warm season physiology. And physiology is a big word, but it just means the inner workings of the plant. So let's explore that today. But if you think this sounds boring, think again, because the reason this is cool and important to a grassland, to a functioning grassland, is that this determines when the plants grow, but it also determines how efficient with water these plants are, which makes sense because cool seasons grow in the spring when there's lots of water. They're not very efficient. These warm season grasses are greatly efficient. They love the heat of summer and they don't mind a drought. And so why is it that this plant can tolerate that? Let's dive into that and see. So we have C3 and C4 grasses. C3s are the cool season, so we'll use blue for cool season. So we have our C3 and we have our C4 grasses. So the way these plants work are going to affect those two things we were talking about. So we'll just write that up here to keep it in mind. Cool versus warm temperatures. And the second one is water thriftiness. Okay, so here we go. Our C3s are cool season. Our C4s are warm season. Now, I once had a young whippersnapper that I worked with, and he's like, C4, that's like dynamite, right? No, that's not what we're talking about. Why then, if it has nothing to do with dynamite or C4, why do we call it C3 and C4? So you've got this whole process of photosynthesis, right? The sun plus water plus carbon dioxide, and it makes a sugar or a carbohydrate. The first sugar that's made in a C3 plant has 3 carbon molecules. So we could say the C stands for carbon, and there's 3 of them. Guess what? The first sugar that's made over here in a C4 plant is a 4 carbon molecule. So that's where the term comes from. Nothing too exciting. But you've got this basic process of photosynthesis. And again, you know, we've got water, we've got carbon dioxide, we've got sunlight. And the plant leaf has a mechanism to take that and turn it into the sugars, into the food. And the C3 has this basic photosynthetic process. So it's chugging along, and it really doesn't require a lot of energy to operate. That's why you can operate in low temperatures of spring. So it has low energy requirements, but it doesn't really do well if you don't have the water. And we're going to explore more about why that is when we look at the warm seasons, actually. But let's just take it that this is the basic photosynthetic pathway. We end up with a growth cycle in the spring and the fall. So if this is January and this is December, and this is the amount of growth going up this axis, we're going to come in here, and in the spring, we're going to have a little jump in growth. In the fall, we're going to have a little jump in growth. That might be a little late in the year for a cool season, but this warm season in here, it's really not growing. So today we're at the end of July, 1st August, and the cool season grasses are like, this is not for me. And this is why, because it has this basic photosynthetic pathway and it likes the cool temperatures. Why, you say? Do the warm seasons have the ability to like the warm temperatures and be so much more water efficient? Well, this is why that happens. So the reason that the warm seasons are able to thrive at the temperatures that are hot and the moisture levels that are low is because they fixed a problem. There's a problem with these plants here that has been fixed in this system over here. Maybe that's a little bit of a crude way to look at it, because it's really the two of them together that make a stable environment. You don't actually want all warm seasons, so it's not that we've fixed the problem. It's just that we have different designs in the plants. But these cool seasons, there's something that happens when the temperature gets high. We get very inefficient at determining whether it's an oxygen or a carbon dioxide. Taking in an oxygen is actually a problem for plants. You remember back to 3rd grade biology? And what happens is the plant is taking in carbon dioxide, it's giving off oxygen. That's what we breathe, right? And then we turn that around and we give off carbon dioxide. Plant takes that in, so it's like this cycle, right? So the plant does not want to take in oxygen, but the carbon dioxide molecule and the oxygen molecules are kind of similar. And the plant gets, when it's working really fast, you know how you're doing something along and you're working at a fine pace. You can do pretty good at that. You can be pretty accurate. But if you all of a sudden have to pick up the speed and you're having to produce this faster, your quality goes down a lot of times, or at least at some point, at some speed, it will go down. And so that's happening to these cool season grasses. They're working along, and through spring, all is good. And then all of a sudden, they're having to work faster and faster because the temperature is heating up and the biological processes happen faster. And it's like, oh boy, I really can't get the oxygen sorted out well enough. It's just working too fast to do that well. So that's one problem. The other problem it runs into is the stomata are open. A stomata, you say? What is a stomata? This sounds like a fancy word. Well, it's just a little word for a little hole in the leaf. So you've got a little hole like on the underside of a leaf here. There's lots of stomata on this big blue stem leaf. And what those stomata do is they open up, and that's how the carbon dioxide can get into the plant. But there's a problem with opening your stomata. The water can escape. Water was part of this equation, right? And so this is why the cool seasons are not very water thrifty. We open up our stomata and out goes the water, in comes too many oxygens, and it's like, I just give up. I'm just gonna sit here for the summer. I'm gonna wait for the cool temperatures of fall. Okay, the warm seasons have fixed that problem. There's an extra step in the process, in this basic photosynthetic process, and that extra step is what the warm seasons have that may give them a huge advantage to love the summer heat and be super thrifty with water. Let's look at it. We have a room here. We call it a cell in a plant actually, but let's just think of it as a room. And let's put this one in blue. It happens, we'll put it in a red room and the blue. This happens in both of them. This is where our water, our carbon dioxide, and our sunlight are all meeting up. In a cool season plant, our stomata, we can get oxygen in there, we can let water out, problem. In our warm season plant, we're like, hey, we're gonna create an extra room so this problem doesn't happen. So we put our stomata over here. Again, this is just the opening in that leaf. And we're like, hey, carbon dioxide, oxygen, whoever gets in, whatever. You can come into this room. And then we're going to transport that over here so we can't get the oxygens over here. And also, the water can't leave. So this is really this extra step. And again, like this produces that 4-carbon sugar. This is a 3-carbon sugar. So everything eventually gets to that 3-carbon sugar. But this extra room, this extra cell, this extra process in the plant is what makes the difference. This is what makes it able to tolerate high temperatures and low water conditions, which makes sense, right? The design of this is really beautiful. The design of these grasslands is amazing because the cool seasons grow when it's cool, okay? Makes sense. They do really well. They're very efficient. There's a lot of water usually in the cool season. Spring, usually we have spring rains. Fall, often we have spring rains or fall rains, not always, but a lot of times we have fall rains. So there's lots of water and the temperatures are cool. And then in the warm season, that same plant doesn't work well, but that's okay. We've got a whole nother plant, whole nother functional diversity group of plants. And because they have this extra step, they can thrive when the temperatures are naturally high of course, in summer. And then also the moisture tends to be less. Summer rains are unpredictable at best. You might get good rains. We've had pretty good rains here up through now. We're kind of starting to get dry. But they are very unpredictable. It could rain tonight and it could not. So we need to be able to thrive in the low moisture conditions of summer if you like to grow in the summer. So those two things being paired is an amazing design thing. If you just had one, you could tolerate the heat but not the low water. It wouldn't be nearly as effective. Another thing these warm season grasses, plants also have going for them, usually, and every plant is different, is that you see this big blue stem plant here, and this one's a little short because it's in the shade. They are taller than me with one of my kids standing on my shoulders out there. They are really tall. And if you can imagine, we've got our plant up here, make him a big blue stem plant, put the turkey tracks on him. And we've got our ground level here. This root system goes down into the ground amazingly far. I've seen root systems that they've dug out that are like 20 feet deep. It's amazing how deep these root systems can go. Well, if there's water down there from spring still, we can pump her out. These cool season grasses, that is not their design. They don't tend to get as big and tall in the first place as our warm seasons, but their root systems are much more shallow. And so, and again, these are all generalizations, but this makes sense. This design is beautiful. We've got a plant that doesn't need to go deep because generally there's rains there. And yeah, if you don't get rains at the right time, it may not grow as much there in the spring or in the fall as it would have. Everything does need rain at some point, but just the generalities, this design is beautiful. So let's look away from the whiteboard for a minute and let's actually look at plants. So what is a warm season grass? Give me some examples, right? So big blue stem, warm season grasses. Has this turkey foot seed head, very common. Sometimes the turkeys don't just have 3 toes, they have like 4 or 7 or 9 toes. Kind of deformed turkeys. But anyway, also called turkey foot grass. Indian grass, switchgrass, eastern gamma grass. There's also some lesser known ones like a purple top or grease grass, beaked panic grass, just lots of different warm season grasses. And actually, there's this variability within the warm season grasses. Some of them do have these super deep roots. Some of them have shallower roots and actually respond to a rain better. And so the big ones, little blue stem would also be in this category of the big ones. It's not as big, but it has the same growth habits. They actually have those deep root systems, and they don't respond to a little rain. If we get a little half-inch rain in the summer, they don't respond that much to it. But some of these other ones, like the beaked panic grass, purple top, they will respond to that and can give you a boost in forage or just like do their thing. That's their time of the season. They cover the solar collector at that time. So what are the native cool season grasses? Native cool season grasses would be like these wild rye. So this is the southeast wild rye. It's one of the Virginia wild rye, and there's a lot of different wild rye, and they actually, during the cool season, each have their own little unique growth window as well. But the wild rye, there's sedges, there's foul manna grass, there's bulrushes. Now some of these are not actually grasses, but you know, all of the plants either have a C3 or a C4, a warm or cool season photosynthetic pathway. It doesn't just have to be the grasses that we talk about in that regards, but this is one of the cool season grasses, the wild rye. The native forbs, wildflowers, pollinator plants, whatever you want to call them, are actually C3 plants, almost just entirely. Broadleaf plants are C3 plants, so they're cool seasons. But it's a little confusing because here's this oxeye sunflower and it's blooming the end of July, 1st to August. Looks beautiful, but it's a cool season plant technically. And so you just are kind of mixing things up a little bit as far as like, you know, technically it's either C3 cool season or C4 warm season, but the growth patterns kind of like don't follow the rules just, you know, 100% perfect, which is great. You think, well, gosh, this is getting confusing all of a sudden. But in the design of the grassland, it's actually a benefit because you want things growing at different periods. You get all this weed control effect from that when you have a diversity of plants that are doing their things at different times, producing biomass at different times. And so if you're interested in that, we actually have another video on that as well, so check that out. But these warm season and cool season plants, it's the beauty of the grassland that we have them all mixed in together. If we had our warm seasons over here and our cool seasons over there and our forbs in the middle, we don't have that beauty of that grassland. We need them mixed together so that they, this one comes on, does its thing, and then the next season comes along and this one just kind of melts down to the ground and this one comes on and does its thing. So we want that always changing, and that's the beauty of the C3 and C4 plants in the grassland. If all you have is a monoculture, or all you were thinking about planting is a monoculture of natives, and you were just going to do AC3 grass or AC4 grass or AC3 forb, or even just, you really don't have much stability. Your resilience is not high. And so if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, that's true, I do only have the warm season grasses out there, or I only have forbs out there and I need some of the warm season grasses to go with them. If you're thinking that, or you're thinking about a planting you were thinking about doing, and you're like, oh, I wasn't going to put any of the C3s out there, I was just doing C4s. Go to our website and check it out, because you can actually think about what species you want to add them to your cart and buy them, or just do some planning. Sometimes it's not that time to actually buy it and do an overseed, say. Sometimes it's just a time to do planning. So check that out. And I really appreciate you guys hanging with me on this video. I know it's a little sciencey, but I think it's really cool, the design of these grasslands and how it impacts the life. It actually impacts life, how these plants work. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm Elizabeth at Hamilton Native Outpost.
We at Hamilton Native Outpost make these videos to share the unique knowledge that we have gained from over 40 years of working with native plants as we raise and sell native grass and wildflower seeds. If you found this video helpful, we need your help to get the message out. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment. It helps others to find us. Thank you.